know we don't shed a million tears. I know we can't believe this shit. Loved ones, come home. We be praying for you every day. As we stand in the throes of this, we gonna make it about this bitch. In this life, we gon' go through phases. Living, breathing, yes, you cannot say it. Chase your dreams, try, yes, you can make it. Never give up, don't give in. We're gonna pull through somehow. We're gonna make it through right now. We're gonna make it through, no doubt. Our ancestors will be proud. We're gonna pull through somehow. We're gonna make it through right now. We're gonna make it through, no doubt. Let's give a few moments of silence. Let's give it now. Good afternoon. This is a special edition of the Ask Muva Lunch Hour Live, which is hosted by yours truly, Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'm telling you now that it's not going to be an easy show for me. I am a mother of Black and brown sons who are now adults that have made it through to do what they needed to do. We are about to have a riveting discussion about the contentious district attorney's race that is happening next Tuesday, May 18th, in Philadelphia with incumbent Larry Krasner and his challenger Carlos Vega, who was an ADA for 35 years there in the office. Today, we are working on having a riveting discussion about what it is like, what the justice system is like. And we have James A. Dennis here. I'll read a little bit of his bio before we get started, who was unjustly imprisoned for 25 years, right as he was getting ready to get into the budding part of his music career. How this man held on is way beyond even my comprehension. But I just want to thank him for even getting on the air to talk to me today. And then we have Keir Bradford Gray, needs no introduction in Philadelphia. But for those of you who are working and living outside of Philadelphia and never heard this phenom's name, let me just give you a little bit of introduction. I'll introduce her in a little bit. But she was the chief defender of the Defenders Association in Philadelphia, the 5th largest association in the country. This sister is I don't even have words to describe it. What she has done for her people and beyond, what she has done for the lawyers, the litigants that have worked in her office, and how she stood up for social justice in many areas. And so James and Keir and I are going to talk about this contentious district attorney's race and give us a little bit of a breakdown on what's going on and how we're working this through. Michael Court. Everybody knows Michael Court. All of us want Michael Court to be on this show today. He is tied up in a litigation in court. So if he can get out of the courtroom in time to get into this conversation, we will talk to him. If he cannot, you better rest assured that we're going to do this again. Trust me when I tell you, because he is phenomenal. One of the smartest people I have ever met. Just literally one of the smartest people. So again, thank you for joining us. I am going to share my screen to give you the disclaimer on behalf of Catherine Hicks of the Philadelphia Sunday Sun, who is the publisher, and I'm asking all of you to go and like the Philadelphia Sunday Sun page. Their prescription. Their subscription is less than $60 a year. I am a writer for the Philadelphia Sunday Sun, and they have other personalities who will do shows here, like Moni and Danette Reed. So we're all doing what needs to be done. This is Black Talk Media, y'all. The stuff that happens here is unapologetic, and we speak what we know is truth. Disclaimer, the advice offered during the Ask Muva Lunch Hour Live is intended for informational entertainment purposes only. Use of this broadcast is not intended to replace or substitute for any professional, financial, medical, legal, or other advice. If you have specific concerns or a situation in which you require all of the above, you should consult with an appropriately trained and qualified specialist. The Ask Muva Lunch Hour Live, its hosts, the Philadelphia Sunday Sun newspaper and publisher, are not responsible for the outcome or results of following any advice in any given situation. You and only you are completely responsible for your actions. Good afternoon to the both of you. I'm going to introduce you. Sorry, excuse me. Let me do this. I'm going to introduce you so that the world knows who is on the air with us, right? So here we go. Kier Bradford Gray. Kier Bradford Gray now, let me just, her bio from 2020, since becoming the chief defender of the Defenders Association of Philadelphia in 2015, Kier Bradford Gray has been the city's leading advocate for comprehensive justice system reform. Ms. Bradford Gray believes that the defender must not only provide clients with first-rate legal counsel, but also champion innovative programs and partnerships that give communities the power to ensure a positive outcome for those who encounter our justice system. Ms. Bradford Gray has spent the last several years spearheading initiatives to provide clients access to services that will enable them to avoid the most damaging aspects of the justice system while developing the skills they need to successfully re-enter their communities. Kier Bradford Gray just recently moved over to Montgomery McCracken, attorney at law. She's a partner over there. She concentrates now her practice on complex commercial litigation, white collar and government investigations, and draw on her deep government experience to advocate for her clients in state and federal trials. This sister, I'm telling you, they're lucky to have you, Kier. I just got to tell you, lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And then now let me tell you about this brother that made me cry before I could even get started on this show. Far before anyone could have ever expected that a corrupt and uncaring justice system would snatch Jimmy from his future, his young children, and his dreams, he was well on his way to the heights of musical success. In 1991, Jimmy Dennis, who was 21 years old and the singer and principal member of an up-and-coming R&B band called Sensation, rising stars in their hometown of Philadelphia, they had won several professional competitions and were literally on the cusp of stardom, in talks with several labels about a record deal. Before the band could sign, Jimmy was wrongfully arrested, learned he was being charged with murder of a stranger, and entered into a living nightmare that would include approaching execution dates and 23 lonely hours every day alone in a cell. Jimmy spent nearly 3 decades as an innocent man in that Pennsylvania death row cell. In all of that time, there were only 3 things on his mind: his family, clearing his name, and just as importantly, what he would share with the world when he finally got out, as he always knew he would. He thought of the words he would say and the songs he would sing. They played through his head 1,000 times. For 25 years, he never lost focus. He was determined that his story, his life, would not end this way. He had a family to get back to, dreams to realize, music to make, but first he had to clear his name. It wasn't until 2013 when U.S. District Judge Anita Brody threw out Jimmy's conviction, writing in her history-making decision that the state had committed a grave miscarriage of justice and that Dennis was in all probability innocent, that the world learned what his supporters had been saying all along. In 2017, he was finally released from that death cell row to the relief and celebration of his family, friends, lawyers, and supporters around the world. The last year hasn't always been easy, but he's been reconnecting with family, successfully building a life outside of prison walls, and working to recover from the trauma, that's the part, of being wrongfully convicted and imprisoned for more than 2 decades inflicts on the human soul. And so Jimmy and Kier, oh my God, I'm really trying to keep it together here. This is not a show for me because, you know, I walk with my whole soul in my chest. I just do. Good afternoon to the both of you. Good afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure being here.
You're so
Good
welcome.
afternoon. Can I just say this, James? I'm with Andrea. Thank you so much for being here with a smile on your face and looking like
Thank you.
You could not be broken.
Yeah. Thank you.
So forgive me, James. I
Yes.
look at your face and I see my children. I see
Yes,
my
ma'am.
sons.
Yeah.
I see your loving spirit. I see the kindness that's coming out of you. I see how open, wide open, and generous your soul is despite what has happened to you. And so we're going to start out this conversation talking about this contentious district attorney's race. Kier, let me start here because there has been all sorts of conversation around the fact that Larry Krasner has been soft on crime, that he didn't know what he was doing, that Carlos Vega is the one that, you know, will come back and inject law and justice into the community because the violence is terrible here in Philadelphia. I'm sorry, y'all. The tears are seeping out of my eyes.
You're fine. You're fine, Andrea.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
fine.
And so I want you to explain to people, what role does the district attorney's office have, and why this is a misnomer that you keep hearing out here in the community?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for even asking for my opinion. You're probably like the first person that has asked for the opinion of someone who's an insider into the system, as much as we were. Larry and I worked together on a lot of things. And I will tell you, his philosophies and policies about reform have nothing to do with letting go violent people who touch our systems. And I say that for a reason. Most of the people who commit the violent crime do not touch our systems. They're not being brought in. They're not cleared, as we call it. You know, when we say police clearance rate, is that there is an arrest of those persons. So about 30% of the people who are committing violent crimes are touching our systems. Those 30% of the people who touch our systems are getting prosecuted. Now, one of the things that we want to make sure that people understand is that just because there's an arrest doesn't mean it's always right. We have to make sure that we're not putting absolutes on police departments, that when they make an arrest, it's a 100% surety that this person is guilty. And what Larry sought to do, and you know what we pushed for Larry to continue to do, was make sure that there is fairness in this process. So if someone is arrested on a violent crime, don't just go on the political warfare and say, oh, well, even though we have evidence that may contradict some of the things that we're saying through our investigations, we're going to continue to go on this path because we started on it, and we can't seem as if we don't know what we're doing. That's too much ego in this system, which causes people like James to lose their lives, even when an objective person can look at information and evidence and do the right type of investigation to ensure they have the right person. So there's a long way of saying that this system doesn't have a soft on crime approach for violent offenders. Not that I was in, and I was there before Larry and just recently during Larry's tenure. I've seen people come in and they were prosecuted to the fullest extent. I've seen people come in charged that once investigations revealed that maybe we had the wrong person, the right thing was done. So I know the other day, Carlos spouted out some, I guess, data about how many cases were dropped. One of the things that he has to realize is that just because the police bring it in doesn't mean it's always the right avenue. And I want a prosecutor that's going to look at the evidence objectively, listen to defense counsel's information, and make the right choice.
Lord Jesus. James, I want you to know that Keir Bradford Gray has started something called a participatory defense that has helped litigants in their cases who would just be thrown away into the prison system or locked. I'm telling you, James, amazing.
It's wonderful. Amazing.
It's amazing. And Keir, tell everybody a little bit about that. And I love the way how you dissected and let people know that the conviction rates are not the hard criminal, what people are talking about, people who will be let go are not the hard criminals, right? Explain to them what are some of the cases where people would be given bail or no bail and released on their own recognizance. Explain to them what that means, please.
Yeah. So the bail structure still needs to be fixed. It's not perfect. And we need to have a structure where we allow for individualized assessment of a person. Meaning, who are they as a human being, not just what they're charged with. Right. But right now, we do still have this charge-based decision tree when it comes to bail. And Larry's policies, because of the pandemic, have sought to, one, hold anyone who's charged with a violent crime in on a high level of bail. Now, that doesn't mean that that's a great thing. That's a Band-Aid approach to something that needs to change structurally. Mm-hmm. But we do not see people that come in with shootings, with robberies, with sexual assaults, with burglaries, even with gun possession offenses, even though that's in and of itself not inherently dangerous because you possess a gun. But these are the people that he's targeting for higher level bails. And I saw that. I wanted to change that structure to say, hey, while you can originally target someone for a high level bail, we need a further analysis as to who the person is. Because again, Andrea, like we know, there are some people that are charged with things, but they can be out, like Michael White. If we were to go on just the charges, Michael White would have been in jail for the entire year and a half leading up to his trial. But when we assess who this person is, the support system he has around him, and the opportunity for him to be out in the community safely, where it's not a detriment to anyone else, we should make those correct decisions. And when there's people that come in with low-level offenses that could be more dangerous and violent than their charge indicates, we need to make the appropriate assessments. So our system, Larry can't do this alone. Our system needs to change its structure so that we make better decisions on the front end. So people like James don't get stuck and caught up in a system where no one wants to admit their wrongs and no one wants to admit their mistakes because their egos are way too high and the politics won't allow them to make mistakes like they made in James and admit it.
But this is a human being, right? Someone who, James, let's start talking with you. You were on the cusp of first of all, that song we just played, is it for sale? Can we buy it?
Yes, it is. It's on iTunes, Spotify. It's called Tears This Year. It's out right now. It's on iTunes, Spotify, Tidal, all music services, wherever they buy and stream music. I'm there. All my music is there, from Tears This Year to All You Went and Did It to Hate the Skin I'm In, piece that I wrote about Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Emmett Till, to You Said. So all my music is on all musical platforms. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome, because as soon as I started hearing the song, I was like, okay. So you were 21.
21,
right?
yes, ma'am.
21,
Yeah.
doing your thing, singing, getting ready to get a record label, and the world came crashing down on you. At 21, did you think that this could have possibly ever happened to you?
I couldn't imagine that my life would be stolen away for something I didn't do. And my life was literally destroyed. You go from feeling like you're about to have the world on a string, as as Frank Sinatra would say, to then you're being charged with a crime you didn't commit. And the only reason this happened to me is because of police corruption. 2 police detectives by the name of Santiago and Deskrimsky, they are corrupt. They have been proven to be corrupt in other cases that you have seen in Philadelphia, such as the Anthony Wright case, where the city paid out $10 million to him. Those are the same exact police officers. And if you look up his case and you look up this situation, you'll see that they did what they did to me, to numerous other people. And there was a corrupt prosecutor, which y'all may be familiar with, named Roger King. Roger King is one of the most corrupt prosecutors that this city has ever seen. And what they did was they buried the truth about my innocence. They knew I was innocent from day one. Keep in mind, I do not have a criminal record. I never had a criminal record in my life, right? So I don't have a significant criminal history. That's number one. They said the perpetrator was 6 foot tall, over 200 pounds, and dark skin complexion, and the crime took place in a matter of 1 to 3 seconds. I stand 5'4". You can see that I'm brown skin complexion, when we know as Black people what a dark skin complexion is. That's Wesley Snipes, Miles Davis, so forth. And I weigh 125 pounds at the time of the crime. So what they did to me was egregious. They took evidence of my innocence. They hid it for years, a welfare receipt that proved my innocence, other documentation of other people confessing to the crime, so on and so forth. And they buried it for years. And it wasn't until I got to federal court for that legal opinion that you read on August 21st, 2013, where the truth came out. But this is why Larry Krasner is so important to us. Keep in mind, Larry Krasner has exonerated over 20 people in less than 3.5 years. Larry Krasner is charging people fairly. So you must say to yourself, why wouldn't the police, the Fraternal Order of Police, like Larry Krasner? Why wouldn't anybody in this city like Larry Krasner? I'm gonna tell you why. Because he's holding police accountable. Go back and look. You'll see he's already locked up several police officers who were corrupt. That's why they don't like Larry Krasner. An article came out yesterday by the ACLU. You and I both know that the ACLU is a nonprofit. They never get involved in politics because they can't. Read the article, go and read the article. They are educating people about the Fraternal Order of Police have put over 6-digit figures into Vega, right? He's in their pocket. That's their boy. They want him to do their bidding. Keep in mind, this is a man, right, who was in the district attorney's office for 35 years. He never did anything. He never did anything.
Let me ask you this, James and Kier. I found out actually through you, Kier, when you were the chief defender in Montgomery County, that the most lifers, the most juvenile lifers in the world is in Pennsylvania. Yes. Pennsylvania, right? And that there have been so many people who are wrongfully convicted. When you hear James tell this story, I saw you nodding your head as you heard some of the names, right? How do people protect their innocence in this? Tell them how the participatory defense works and how do people protect their innocence in all of this?
So for many people coming through these systems, it's their first brush at understanding what's happening to them. And it's such an emotional experience that they're in a whirlwind and people are talking over them and all these legalese. And very little times are people listening to the person who is being accused or even trying to understand them. And so when I hear stuff like what James said, this starts with a unique and in-depth understanding of how communities and the legal system work together to get it right. So participatory defense was designed for people to know their systems, not to know their rights, because rights can be trampled on. And let me fight for your rights when we get in court, right? I don't want you going up there telling a cop what they can and cannot do, because you're gonna lose that battle. Let me fight. Let's live to tell the story. Let's fight it another day and get those cops held accountable, hopefully. But what people need to understand is what the systems process is and what they can do to help each of those hearings go the way they should. Meaning, James shouldn't have been, I don't know what kind of shanty evidence that he was convicted on, but the federal judge looking at it said he was more than likely innocent. That meant she read through the transcripts and the information presented did not give her a beyond a reasonable doubt gut that this was a justified conviction. So that means that there was a lot of things on the front end that community was left out of in terms of being engaged. The community in participatory defense not only understand the process, but they are invited into the system, into the courts, into the hearings to let people know I am watching you and I'm going to be holding you accountable. Secondly, they become part of the process even more because they're more educated on what it is that the process is, what the opportunities are that either their public defender, their court-appointed lawyer, or their paid lawyer is not presenting to the courts. And so I want to say this, remember, there are 3 legs in this system. There's judicial, prosecution, and defense. They all have to work well. And James, I don't know who your defense lawyer was, but it starts with the defense attorney as well. They can't just be sitting there pointing fingers at everyone when they didn't do the homework enough on who you were and press for more understanding about where the flaws of the evidence was. But that's where participatory defense comes in. Where there are flaws and gaps in the evidence and information, they have filled those gaps. They have provided us with better witnessing structures, and they have provided us with better information and analysis and understanding of the person. And the person feels more empowered and strengthened because they have a village behind them and not just a person that may have met them 1, 2, or 3 times during the course of that trial. And they feel helpless, like this person can't truly advocate for me because they don't even know me or understand my world.
Right. So to what do you all owe this big, this contentious race now? Why is it so important to folks? Because I hear people talking from the top level all the way down. They're choosing sides in this thing, right? The Democratic Party did not openly endorse Larry Krasner, despite all the things that you talked about. And despite the history in the city and in the state of Pennsylvania and in the country around what happens to Black and brown folks, how do we protect ourselves? I mean, because according to what James said, you can't just get picked up off of the street by facial recognition or somebody saying that it was you. even if you don't fit the profile, how does this not stop us from being frightened every day? How does
Yeah.
this happen?
Well,
Go ahead, James.
that's a good question. Sorry, Kiara.
No, you're good.
That's a good question. Here's what I say to you, right? We in the community of Philadelphia, if we care about justice, if we care about right and wrong, we have to hold police accountable for their actions. We have to hold district attorneys accountable for their actions. And what you're seeing right now is a group of people who don't want to be held accountable. Larry Krasner has come into office and he's held people accountable. Roger King is known to be a terrorist in this city as a district attorney. Go and look.
The district attorney's office?
No, he passed away. He retired and then he passed away. But if you go and look at on Netflix and you go look at the Innocent Files with Chester Hoffman, you'll see what he did to Chester Hoffman. You go back, you look at the situation with me, you look at the Lex Street murder case, so on and so forth. There's a clear and cut pattern with this man and the police officers that he would work with a select group of police officers and they would go about doing dirt. So what you have with me is something that was most egregious. It's not a mistake. It's not an error. And until we get to a point where we are strong enough and confident enough and courageous enough to say we need legislation and laws passed to lock police officers up when they're being corrupt and to lock prosecutors up when they're being corrupt, the same thing is going to continue to happen. So the only reason, what good person that's a police officer would honestly be against Larry Krasner if the only thing he's doing is he's exonerated people who were innocent, right? And he is sent the bad apples, as they like to say, to prison.
So you're saying that because of what he is doing in holding police officers accountable, that's why they don't want him there. Let me ask you this. Was he the one that exonerated you? Was he the one that let you out of prison, exonerated you, or was it the judge herself?
No, he was not. It was the judges that dealt with my situation. Okay. And keep in mind, I dealt with Lynn Abraham, I dealt with Roger King, and I dealt with corrupt, crooked Seth Williams, who went to prison 6 months after I was released, right? We all know what he did, right? So every single thing that I'm saying to you, it's factual. You can look this stuff up. Everything is at a click of everybody's phone.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this though, James. Sorry to cut you off, but let me ask you this. How do you protect yourself? You've been out now, right? Since 2017. Talk to us about how do you protect yourself walking around in any city, knowing what you know and what you had to deal with?
I personally have first of all, I don't feel safe. I suffer from PTSD. I'm in therapy twice a week. I just had therapy today with my therapist. So I don't feel safe in this city, right? I don't feel safe because these police officers did what they did to me, and the detectives and the police force, I know it to be corruption. I know it to be corrupt and pure evil, right? So I don't feel safe. This phone has a locator and it has a signal that knows exactly every single place I am at the time that I'm at. So right now, they know I'm in my house and they know the area which I'm in. And I still don't feel safe. And I can tell you that I still call my lawyers every hour and I still call my family and friends every hour. It's a thing. And that's the only way that I feel safe, right? And I still don't feel completely safe. This is the trauma of them, of what they did to me. And I can tell you that every innocent man from Anthony Wright to Terrence Lewis to Christopher Williams to Delapis Wilson to Dante Rollins and other people you see standing behind Larry Krasner now. This is why we all got together to support this man. We're not political, but we see what's going on. And so we had to use our voices and bring awareness to it. And we all feel uncomfortable. We all feel unsafe because he's the only one that's going to give you checks and balances,
Right. Gotcha.
not Vega.
Can I add something to this
Yeah,
though?
go ahead.
Because
Go ahead.
checks and balances can't be left on the district attorney alone. So we have to make sure that that's clear, because I look, what bothered me in this understanding of reform is we left out the major actors that have a huge piece of this. And we've acted like Larry Krasner was Captain Save a System. He's not. He is a player in this system. But there are people that have to own that responsibility and atone for the harms that they did. Judges have to make sure every process is fair, fundamentally fair. You cannot allow processes to go on that last. When we were looking at juvenile lifers cases, when they were charged and convicted for life in prison, we were looking at trials that may have lasted 45 minutes for homicides. And they were defense attorneys who didn't do proper investigations. They were defense attorneys who didn't talk to their clients. They were judges who allowed shit evidence to come in, even when they knew the rule of law should have prevented that. And they were overzealous prosecutors who cared more about their political aspirations than the humanity of people. Mm-hmm. And we saw that with the Central Park Five. I think there's a thing that we can look at right now. That's not just a television story, that was real life. And their story is not unique. It's not. The fact that 5 boys can be prosecuted and convicted on evidence that was just not even imaginable, that you could look at someone and say, oh yeah, this evidence was convincing enough, but they went to jail and lost their lives. That is what the system has done to many people. And it's going to continue to do that unless people start to understand where they can fit in and their voices can be heard. And participatory defense is so critical for this.
Okay, so how can the average person in the community fit in that would have been able to help, like a James, right? I tell folks this all the time. All of us have cameras now, right? Cameras are everywhere. We have the doorbell cameras, we have the, and folks are like, well, I don't want to be a witness, but you can have a Zoom meeting where they can talk to you, where you can turn over your camera, until you have to go to court. There are ways that you can help. Or if you see someone stopped at the side of the road, you pull up a little bit and say, let me pay attention to what's going on, because video cameras have saved a lot of lives. Now, I have police officers in my immediate and far-flung families. I have mentees that are police officers that are doing the right things. And I am telling you, they're struggling like hell in this corrupt system. It's bad. You hear what I'm telling you? And because of that, they don't know whether, don't be Black and be a police officer, because these are the people that I'm talking about that have just been like, I don't know what to say. And I want to speak up. And when I speak up, they give me, they torture me. So I just want you to know, the good ones have a hard way to go in the system, right? And so it's hard all the way around. But when I talked to a Black police officer one time, because I've been doing this for 20 something years in another state, far, far away. And he said to me, my son was stopped. I'm a police officer. My son was stopped. And when I went in and asked them, why did they stop my son? They started torturing me. He said I had to quit the department because they wouldn't show up for my calls. They gave me the craziest shifts. So James, I'm telling you, what Kier is saying is true. It is so intertwined in so many ways. And then let's talk about the district attorney, the defense attorneys who are from the Defenders Association. I know that's where you came from, Kier, but let's talk about the fact that lots of them sided with the prosecutor's office and didn't do their due justice. Let's talk about these things. It's a big
it's
system.
A system. It's a system, and you can't look at one piece without the other. Yeah. And I said, one of the things that I said that we were going to do is make sure that we did what people needed. And they needed us to understand better and be educated by them, because there's a lot of bias that goes on, unconscious bias. If someone looks at James and they don't understand James, and he's saying, I didn't do it, right? Do I believe him?
Here, he didn't have a criminal record. He had never been in the system. Right. He was 6-7 inches shorter, Kier. He was lighter. What the hell? How did that happen?
And how did his defense lawyer, and I don't know who your defense lawyer was, James. I don't know if you had a court appointed. I don't know what you had. I don't know if you paid someone. But how does that? You paid him.
You paid somebody.
Listen, but just let me say this, right? And I know this is a riveting the discussion, and everything that we're talking about is true. In this situation with me, even though my lawyer was inept, right? There was no way with the lies and the corruption done by Detective Jastrzynski and Santiago and Roger King that any attorney worth their salt, right, would have had a different outcome. It was just insurmountable at that time. It took my lawyers from Washington, D.C., a law firm, to come and do the necessary uplifting and luggage and clearing the way for things to come, for the truth to come out.
James, don't let lawyers off the hook that way.
No.
Because here's what I'm saying.
I'm not letting the lawyers off the hook, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to let these police officers off the hook, because oftentimes, right, we put the onus on the lawyer, and they deserve their just due. But in this particular situation, it was about police and prosecutor corruption. And you know who Roger King is.
I do.
I know you are aware of this man.
Yes.
Everybody in this city is aware of him, and they are aware of these corrupt police officers.
Let me say this, James, I'm not negating the fact that prosecutors and police officers were corrupt, but I will tell you, a good lawyer, like your lawyers in Washington, can make sure that they investigate every piece of that statement. You want to make a statement, you show me where you got it from. I want to see your logs. I want to see your notes. That's the type of work that a defense attorney needs to be doing. And so when I'm talking about a system, some people believe that the lawyer, his hands are tied. Now, they may try everything they can, but when you don't get all the pieces of evidence that you need, look, there's been a lot of cases that I've tried where there were lies, where there were corruption. But when we wanted to dig into that, we have to use community to understand where we can do more digging. Because if we start to just look at this through a systems perspective, we're going to miss stuff. But when you go out and engage people who know you, engage people who understood you, engage people who knew these cops, then you start to gather and gain more information so that you bring to light what's really happening. I'm not saying it's going to work 100% in every case, but I'm saying that's the effort that people like me take an oath to bring.
How do we keep ourselves safe? James is talking about the fact that he has PTSD. I can't even. Yes. I am literally stunned, my brother, that you're sitting here having such a clear, cognizant conversation. I just want to hug you. If this was not COVID, let me tell you, I just want to wrap my whole self around you. Right?
I look forward to meeting you both in person one day and giving you a hug.
Oh, you will. You absolutely will. And I want you to know that what has happened to you, as egregious as it is, you're now being used as a messenger, right? Through your music, through these conversations that you consistently have. You have been interviewed from Rolling Stone up and back down. People have been hearing your story all over the place. And so the gratitude that I find to have the conversation with you now on the cusp of this district attorney's race, where people are hemming and hawing about what they think they can and shouldn't do and how much money they're getting and all these other things. I need the average citizen to understand that voting doesn't come down to personality. Voting comes down to looking at the facts that are in front of you. Voting comes down to what has data, what has history shown us about this, and this, and what would happen if this, and this happened. You know, it is very important. I'm going to go back and ask this question again. I know Michael Court is having a whole fit. He can't be on here because he wanted to do this. We probably wouldn't have gotten 5 words in if Michael was on, because he's hot. He's hotter than fish grease about this, right? And he put out his paper on who people should vote for, and he clearly stood on the side of Vega and likened Vega to Frank Rizzo, right? The Lynn Abraham days. And so I'm coming back to this question. How can we protect ourselves as average citizens in this city from those who are corrupt and hell-bent and intent on using the judicial system to lock us up and lock us up and throw away the keys? This dude was on death row. How do we do this?
To me, from my perspective, right, it starts right now with this election, right? And then it goes on beyond every election. We must pay attention and study who we are voting into office. This is how we protect ourselves. Every single election matter, whether it's locally for a DA, for a judge, for a sheriff, whether it's a national election, that's how we protect ourselves. We have to read and study these candidates, right? And understand who they are and make conscious decisions that's going to affect our families. And for this election, what I would like everybody to do is vote Larry Krasner. What I would like for everybody to do, if you're a Democrat, bring 3, 4, 5 more Democrats to the polls with you, because we need your vote. Every vote counts, right? Mm-hmm. We need you on this. But that's how you protect yourself, by educating yourself and voting the right people in office. Don't be fooled. Vega was in office for 35 years. Larry Krasner fired him for a reason, and we all know what that reason was, right? That's why he's not in the office now.
Let me ask you this, James. Is Larry Krasner paying you in any way? I just want to get that out of the way.
No, nobody's paying me. First of all, yes. Nobody's paying me anything.
Okay, just want to make sure. Yes.
Myself, Anthony Wright, Terrence Lewis, and any other exoneree you have seen, we all doing this because we are standing on the side of what is right. I'm not political. You ain't never seen me talk about politics before, right? Yes. So this is my first go around. I threw my support behind him because I care about your sons, our daughters, the Black and brown community, right? That's why I'm out here. I care about other innocent people who are in prison now, for them to have a fighting chance. I'm advocating for a man by the name of Ralph Stokes and Abdul Hardy, who are innocent in prison right now. And they don't stand a chance of getting a fair trial or a fair hearing or anything if the right prosecutor isn't in there. So myself, I'm not political at all, but I threw my support behind him. I'm not getting paid anything.
I just, somebody will come out and say he's getting paid. Hold on one second, Kier. I asked you that because I want to make sure nobody comes in and says, oh, well, he's being paid by the campaign. I have to ask you that, right?
Not at all.
Larry Krasner didn't even know that I was going to talk to you, honestly.
Right.
Honestly. Right. So, all right. So go ahead, Kier.
So I want to change this focus to the community because, look, I know this system. And one person cannot change all of the status quo practices that go on. And so, yes, it starts with voting in the right person, but then it also has to go further than that. We have to be educated about this system's practices, processes, and what you're entitled to in order to hold that person who you voted in accountable for their practices as well. And I don't just mean, I'm not saying Larry Krasner is out here getting in and doing things evilly, but remember, he's not in the courtrooms. Who's in the courtrooms are the lower rank and file. And so where is their mandate? What process is in place to make sure that there is a community advisory committee that is letting them know the types of things that are biased, the types of decisions that are biasly made, and the types of decisions that are made based on factual recitations of what's truly going on in those neighborhoods. If people don't get involved in these systems that or these hubs that were put together to educate, elevate, and empower those who are going through this system to understand, yes, you're not only entitled to a police report, you're entitled to a forensics report. You're entitled to get the notes.
You're entitled to a forensic report?
Yes. I mean, I can give you what we do when we go to these petition defense hubs. We give them a list of all documents that are generated in each case. And so when people come and say, this is all I have, it's like, well, wait a minute, you're missing this, you're missing that. Education and empowerment to make sure that you're being treated fairly through this process is key. It is not just a person that's sitting in a seat and asking for your vote. It is your responsibility to understand what's happening to us. And I say us because I live in a minority community. I am a minority, and I know how this system has its largest impact on us. And we don't get the benefit of the doubt. We have to fight for it. Michael White's case turned out the way it did because we fought for it. And that community came together and made us fight for it in certain ways. The community gave me more information than any discovery I could have gotten from the
Right.
district attorney.
Wow.
And that made me recognize, oh, wait a minute. They told me this. So there's more information that should coincide with this. Don't negate that power of community being educated on this process. And prosecutors, if they are progressive and if they are community led, they should come out and tell you, here's the paperwork that is generated in each case.
Right.
Here's what you should get in each case. Here's
So
what it
tell us,
means.
give us some of this, because I think most people just think the police report. So the police report, a forensic report, what else should they be asking?
You're entitled to understand when a person was arrested, who was on the scene, what information was gathered by each person on the scene, and get those information. They could contradict each other. They could reveal something. Body cams. Some people give you only the body cam of the arrested officer. You're entitled to body cams of every officer that was sitting there so that you can view them and see different vantage points, like we saw in George Floyd. You are entitled to know every witness that was on the scene, whether they interviewed them or not.
That's discovery.
Information. Discovery is that for a reason, but discovery is only narrated through the lens of someone who's passing it, right? If I don't know what I'm entitled to, I don't know what you didn't give me.
Dang.
Correct. So true.
Yeah.
Beautifully said, Kiara. Beautifully said.
I told you, James, I know the best people, honey. The
She
best
bringing it.
people.
Because I believe in us. You know what?
She
What
bringing it.
the thing that hasn't been spoken about this criminal justice reform effort is how much the community has risen up, gotten more educated, and became actively involved. And that piece of the story is not being told. And any good prosecutor who's going to be elected needs to work with the community even more so now than ever, because they know the power that those people bring to bring understanding and context to situations. And it's been working phenomenal for people who have joined the Participatory Defense Hub and have come in with the army of folks that says, not today. You're not going to do this stuff today.
And that's one of the things I want to say just real quick. Larry Krasner is listening to what we're saying, but he's listening to what the opposition is saying.
Yeah.
He's taking everybody that don't like him. He's listening to them. He's being engaged with them. He's trying to bring the community and the police and everyone together. And he's reaching out to everybody.
So Larry, let me say this, Larry Krasner, I was around when he was first running for office. And so I see what he has done, and I've been involved in the court system where I have been a mentor. That's how Kier found out. I was actually mentoring a young man who was tried for drugs, and instead of locking him up, he went to a court system called Mentor, and I was assigned to him and walked him through the process, got him what he needed. You know, you're so right, Kier, and you're so right, James. Because if the community becomes involved, then we keep more of our brothers out of the system, right? And our sisters, seriously, there's a lot going on here. And I just believe at the core of this is power and money, right? Power and money. I'm going to ask the question again, Kira. I'm asking you, how do we keep ourselves safe? How do we keep ourselves safe?
We stay vigilant on the person who is in charge of making those decisions, and we make sure that we understand the realms of transparency. What do I mean by that? What should we be seeing? What should you be reporting on? And how should we be able to get that information? Because this system has been very non-transparent. Secondly, what accountability factors do we put in place when we know prosecutors have skipped over processes for the easy win? That is not something that we should be doing. And there should be a mechanism that when the assistant ADAs do something that is not consistent to what we call, Mike Cord calls Larry, the general, to what the general is saying, then how do we get in front of whomever who's going to be reviewing those people? See, structure is important. Leadership requires structure. If you are one person and you have a vision, you can only make that vision operationalized if you have structured leadership to trickle down what you need. And one of the things that is necessary, that when those DAs that are still maybe not totally bought in to what Larry's saying, do things that are unethical or do things that are not in line with vision of reform and being fair, who do you go to? There needs to be a mechanism set up for that.
Because think about the Cassandra Franklin case. Dear God Almighty, Let me talk to you, James. James, we could go on all day about this.
Yeah.
The Lamoris. Tell me about the Lamoris, because whoever this person is was emailing me at 1:00 this morning, responding to all. Yes, honey, she was on it, And I said, this is somebody who cares about change. How did you get involved with the Lamoris? Because they're in Canada.
Tracy Lamori from Lamori Media. She's my publicist. She's the best publicist in the world. I found her in 1998. What happened is I went on a prisoner pen pal site. I wasn't interested in pen pals, right? I went on that prisoner site and cyberspace inmates and said, I'm innocent and these are the facts. I had a bunch of hundreds of people respond. Tracy and her husband, Dave, who run their media publicist company, they responded. I wrote them back a 28-page letter, sent them all the documentation in the case, and then they built the Canadian Coalition Against the Death Penalty because of me, and they started the International Justice for Jimmy campaign, where people were speaking out about my innocence all over the country, all over the world. And it literally went all over the world.
That's what Pierre's talking about. Yes.
Right. I had Susan Sarandon, Ed Asner, and then I had everyday people like yourself, Tanya and Jim Sneed from Chicago, Stephanie Lufer in Philadelphia. So I had a team in Philadelphia, had a team in New York, Illinois, Kansas, Arizona, Germany, Denmark, so on and so forth. And it was all because of these beautiful, loving people who are my brother and sister to this day. Yeah.
But you know what, Andrea, I love that, but I'm so tired of the fact that it takes that
much
effort to get
Can
justice.
you imagine what something that happened in Philadelphia? Here is the dot right here in Philadelphia, right? It happened here. Then it went to Canada, then Denmark, then Germany, then people are all over the place trying to figure out how to help this one person in Philadelphia where it should not have taken all of that.
No.
Right.
And that's what that's what gives me a lot of, I guess, sadness or disappointment, because there's a lot of Jameses in this system that don't get this attention and spotlight. And when they don't get that attention, when people don't champion them all over the world, they don't get this justice. And that shouldn't be that way. And I would say this, I do hope Larry Krasner wins. And if he does, I do hope that he expands that conviction integrity unit. There are so many people that need review on the types of past racist prosecutions that have gone on that have not had the opportunity to be looked at. They've been thrown away. And this system has yet to atone for the destruction that has caused our communities. I'm not saying that there's not factions of things that we don't do that call us to be locked in it, but there's a lot more of injustices than there are justice.
Here's something I'd like to add on that to what you just said. Everything that was done to me was complete corrupt. You know about that office, Roger King, Seth Williams and all them. And keep in mind that Vega was in that office, right? The conviction integrity unit was created as a sham by Seth Williams and them in that office. And just let me give you a little footnote that people don't know. My lawyers and I in Washington, D.C. filed a legal brief, and we had discovered all the settlements that the city had done with these police officers and everything like that. And then we filed on that Friday. That Monday, they had a press conference talking about the conviction integrity unit. The very first two things that they done was try to go out and get people to lie against me and Anthony Wright. That's all that conviction integrity unit ever did up until Larry Krasner got into office. And I also want to say to you that an article came out on Sunday in the Philadelphia Inquirer opinion piece by Will Birch. And he talked about that there are 1,400 cases being reviewed from that time.
That was Will Bunch. That was Will Bunch. I read his article on my radio show on Tuesday. Oh, it's a riveting piece. Yes.
Right. So I ask everybody, this is a simple question. Do you want to go back to the foul stench and odor that permeated that office for over 35 years and 50 years? Is that what you want to go back to? Or do you want to go back to a man who's truly trying to change things for our community and everybody in this city, and who is listening to every single person, not who just voting for him, but who dislike him and trying to bring people together?
Let me ask you this, James. Should Larry Krasner win, would you be willing to hold him accountable for the Conviction Integrity Unit, to make sure that, because you've got brothers still locked up, sir, that you just mentioned, that you talked about, right, that needs help? Would you be willing, with those of you who have been exonerated, to go back to that district attorney's office and hold him and his people accountable for that Conviction Integrity Unit? Would you be willing to do that?
There's no doubt, as you see me sitting here, that I'm not going to hold him accountable, period. He will be held accountable. And like I said, he's already exonerated in 3.5 years, 20 people, right? Terrence L. Lewis was one of those people, Theophilus Wilson, and the man that I advocated for, Willie Veazey, came home in 2019. I advocated for Willie Veazey, innocence, and Larry Krasner got him out of prison. So yes, I will continue to hold him accountable, as well as the other men you see us standing up for him, period. Yes, okay. Yes.
So tell us now, what has life been like for you outside of these prison walls? What is next for you? What's happening in your life? We have 5 minutes left. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about the goodness that has happened to you.
All right. I'm about to do a show on Tuesday with a famous R&B star by the name of Aloe Black. I'll be opening the show on Tuesday. They'll be in LA. I'll be in Philly. I got 2 new songs coming out that everybody can look for. Love You Better and Obsession this month. They'll be coming out around the 20th or the 27th. Love You Better will be first, and then Obsession. That's what I have coming up. And I'll still be out here speaking up for the innocent people. And I'm gonna keep putting out new music, and everybody can follow me on Instagram at Jimmy Dennis Music. And they can follow me on Twitter, Jimmy A. Dennis 1, the number 1, Jimmy A. Dennis, the number 1, and Jimmy A. Dennis Music. And you can follow me on Facebook, Jimmy Dennis, and just go check out the music that's on Spotify. Tears This Year is the latest single. All you went and did it. I'm sure you'll be pleased.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. Do you have any children?
I have 2 beautiful daughters. Keep in mind, my youngest daughter was born 1 week after I was stolen away. And the tragedy that everybody has to realize is my daughters have suffered immensely. They're in therapy for what has happened to our family. I lost my dad. My dad, when he found out that they were taking me to trial, he had a stroke. He never was the same again. My mother just suffered a stroke, but her health had been failing from the time I was in prison, and she just suffered a stroke recently, and that's the only reason that I'm not going to LA, so I could be close to try to take care of her. So my family literally has been destroyed by what Roger King and these corrupt police officers, Descripsi and Santiago, have done to me. And I'm not going to stop speaking out about it because it's the truth. And I'm not worried about anything that's going on in the courtroom or anything like that. Everyone needs to know what happened to me, that they stole a young man's life. I wasn't a man, I was a young man, and they stole my life for something I didn't do. And you have 2 legal opinions that now help other innocent people come home, which are now presidents in this country, which helps other innocent people come, men and women come home. And I'm going to keep advocating for men and women whenever I can.
When people are found innocent here in the justice system like this, are there reparations that the city pays to them, or do they just let them out?
Just let them out, unless you have a legal team.
Come on with it.
Seriously, there's nothing built in to give back and atone for what you did. The accountability, there's no accountability for what these actors did. And in fact, many of the prosecutors have this thing called qualified immunity, where you can't sue them for their misconduct. It has to be gross misconduct. And I don't even know, based on what I've seen, it's all gross to me, because quite frankly, you're taking people out of their homes. You're snatching people off the streets, caging them to where their family is suffering, their opportunity is suffering, and generational poverty has been built off of this paradigm. And so it is time for this system to give back to our community what they have taken from us. And they have not given us an air of safety. We are sitting here, we're still under the radar of bullets flying that can't, and crimes that can't be solved. And you mean to tell us that we're spending almost $1 billion for this structure? Not almost, we're spending over $1 billion, because it's $760 million for the police alone. We're spending over $1 billion for this structure, and Black and brown communities still feel fearful by every end, by crime and by the system. And so I will say, I will leave with this: community has to become more aware, more educated, and they have to have an agency in these decisions on every side. We cannot let people go. And I'm glad you said you would hold them accountable, because if I were a DA, hold me accountable. I want to do the right thing.
We must.
You have to. You cannot think just because someone is coming in that the structure is going to work for us. It takes more than just one person.
All right, so I have to tell you, this conversation was so riveting. The show is over. It's been
No,
an hour.
rewind. I'm loving James.
Rewind. I'm loving this. I'm loving being around you two Black queens. I'm loving it.
So we're going to do this again. I think we need to do this again.
We got to have Michael Cord next time.
Yeah, listen. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to, James, I'm going to invite you back and see if we can get some of the other exonerated brothers on the show with us.
Make that happen.
Let's do that. And I'm going to continue to talk to you all, because the accountability is what is necessary for all of us. And on behalf of Catherine Hicks, the publisher of the Philadelphia Sunday Sun, this version of the Ask Muva Lunch Hour Live is officially over. Goodbye.
Thank you for having
Thank you,
me.
Mother. We love
Thank
you.
you, Queens.
Welcome.
Appreciate
You're
you.
so welcome. Listen, stay in touch with me.